It seems like autumn is the handheld season. We have stuff being announced left, right and centre, and if you're trying to keep up with it all like I am, your head's going to be jolting around all over the place as if it suffers from cardinal snapping. I thought that 2025 would go down in history as the year of the clamshells, because we've had the Miyoo Flip version 2, the Retro Pocket Flip, the 34X XSP, the Flip 1DS, the Pocket DS, and the Thor. That's more flips than a gymnast in a pancake tossing contest. But whilst all of these flipping handhelds are exciting, the tail end of this year is being given over to something quite different. Enter the disruptors. What we're really talking about here are devices that challenge the comfortable status quo, the design philosophy of gentle iteration, where the main innovation between models seems to be finding a new and exciting shade of grey. Companies like Ambonic have fallen for this hard with their H700 and T820 handhelds. We saw the disruption earlier in the year with the Magic X 040, the first budget device that could play DS games in a form factor that replicates the original hardware. Xu Retro Xu 20V32, a $50 handheld with touchscreen and ideas above its station, cemented the idea that things were about to change. And we're seeing it again now with a few new releases. The AYANEO Pocket AIR Mini, the Xu Retro Dream 1, and the Mangmi Air X are giving us something of a paradigm shift in gaming. These new devices don't apologise for being affordable. They're devices that actually make you question why we were ever paying more in the first place. These new handhelds are certainly going to make a dent in the profits of the likes of Ambonic and TrimUI. They promise an awful lot more for your money than the competition, and in retro gaming, that is going to have a massive impact. Imagine, if you will, that retro gaming is your favourite restaurant, and the form factors are the condiments. The most important thing is going to be the food that you can eat. Let's say that your favourite form factor, a chutney, isn't available, but you can eat all of the rest of your food, all the food that you love, and more that you've never even tried. Are you really going to worry if they palm you off with relish? So these disruptors, are they going to be a serious threat to the industry? Is this going to be a revolution capable of toppling the establishment, or just a very pointed letter to the editor? Let's find out after this. Before we get started, I would like a brief moment of your time rather than a moment of time with your briefs. It's getting very expensive to make these videos. In the last month alone, it would have been easy to spend upwards of $1,000 on just pre-orders. And obviously, I can't do that. But I would like to become a trusted name in this industry. And if you'd like to help me fight the good fight, or even fumble a sword in a battle or two, then there's a link to a new Patreon below. As yet, you don't get anything extra. I am hoping to change this over time. But all of the money will go to keeping me in Pepsi Max and off the streets so I can make more content like this for you. Now, back to your regularly scheduled nonsense. The handheld market has traditionally operated like a medieval class system. You had your gaming nobility at the top, devices costing $700 or more that could run Cyberpunk 2077, whilst calculating your taxes, making dinner, and picking up the kids from school. And then you had your respectable merchants in the middle, the $150 to $500 crowd, offering solid performance with that familiar, you get what you pay for philosophy. And finally, you've got your peasants who have to make do with devices that can barely run Tetris without stuttering, but, oh, me old governor, they're salt of the earth and no mistake. But here's what's fascinating about 2025. That entire structure is being challenged by a wave of devices that refuse to stay in their class. These new sub-$100 handhelds are thoughtfully designed products that happen to cost less than a fancy dinner for two. And they're forcing everyone from enthusiast reviewers to casual consumers to reconsider what good enough actually means in the context of retro gaming. The market disruption that we're witnessing, it doesn't seem to be about cutting corners. They're about thinking outside the box. They're trying to give people more of what they want and less of what they pay. These manufacturers ask themselves a radical question. What if we optimized for form factors not on the market? What if we tried to emulate games that people actually play rather than hitting pointless benchmark scores just to impress in marketing materials? The two units we've seen so far show you exactly how this is working. The Xu 20V32 gives us Android for $50. It uses the same internals as the TrimUI brick, pretty much, but it does things differently enough that even if you have a brick, you might pick this one up. Critically, it has that touch screen and Android interface, and there's just nothing out there that does this at the same price point at the moment. The same is true of the Magic X 040. All they did was turn a screen on its side, but it opened up the floor to Nintendo DS emulation with all of the touchscreen controls in place for a fraction of the cost of getting the original hardware and the games. But what the newer units are doing isn't disrupting by form factor, but disrupting by expanding the franchise. The old guard would play everything up to PS1 and a bit more on top. This new guard can just about handle some PS2 and GameCube games, and actually, they should handle quite a few of them. This means that each of these companies can proudly boast that you can now get PS2 for under $100. With quite a few caveats, but still. AYANEO is bringing their premium expertise to budget pricing. It's like watching Gordon Ramsay opening a barrow on the Old Kent Road. You're not sure that it should work, but you're definitely curious about the results. And in this case, the results are quite compelling. The Pocket Air Mini represents something that we haven't seen before, a device that takes everything that AYANEO's learnt about premium handheld design and distills it down into its essential elements. At its heart is the MediaTek Helio G90T, a processor that's actually several years old now, but it remains perfectly capable for its intended purpose. This is not cutting-edge silicon by any stretch of the imagination, but it doesn't need to be. What matters is that it can handle everything up to PSP without breaking a sweat, whilst offering respectable performance on selected GameCube and PST titles. In fact, I think even a few of the lower-end Switch titles are going to play on all of these devices, but I'd need to test this to be sure, so let's take that with a pinch of salt. But the real story here is the display. The 4.3 aspect ratio is a retro gaming purist's dream. No more black bars interrupting your carefully crafted pixel art, just pure, uncompromised nostalgia in its natural habitat. A 4.2-inch screen with a 1280 by 960 resolution offers something precious. Scaling that matches classic games exactly as they were meant to. Sharp and clean, without the visual compromises that widescreen displays often impose on retro content. And let's be clear about this, the Pocket Air Mini is going to be a direct competitor to the Ambonic T820 devices like the Slide and the 476H, the ones with the 4.7-inch 4x3 screens. It's not as powerful by any stretch of the imagination, but you're paying a premium for the Ambonic devices when most people at this level are seeing things like PS2 and GameCube as nice to have and not must have. I'll tell you a story about the 476H later because I nearly bought one. Anyway, the Pocket Air Mini comes in two configurations, a base model with 2GB of RAM and 32GB of storage, and an upgraded version with 3GB of RAM and 64GB of storage. AYANEO's pricing strategy is what they usually do. They're offering a limited time price starting at just $69.99, raising to a final retail price of $99.99. That's premium build quality and thoughtful design at a price that would have been unthinkable just a few years ago. There are compromises, of course. The device ships with Android 11, which feels dated in 2025, and may limit future software compatibility. But for its intended purpose, delivering an authentic retro gaming experience at an accessible price, the Pocket Air Mini succeeds brilliantly. Those Hall effect analog sticks and triggers, once exclusive to much more expensive devices, provide the kind of precision and durability that budget handhelds have historically lacked. The Xu Retro Dream 1 is the device equivalent of that friend who always knows exactly what to order at restaurants. Reliably good choices without any drama, and somehow it always works out perfectly. This device occupies what I can only describe as the Goldilocks zone of budget gaming. Not too specialized, not too generic, but just right for the remarkably broad range of users. Built around the MediaTek G85 chipset, this handheld offers something increasingly rare: genuine balance. The processor provides excellent compatibility with a full range of pre-PlayStation 2 consoles, solid performance on PSP titles, and respectable results on selected GameCube and PS2 games. It's equipped with a generous 3GB of RAM and 32GB of storage, specifications that represent excellent value in today's budget handheld market. The 4-inch display strikes a pragmatic balance with its 960 by 720 resolution and crucially maintains a 3.4 aspect ratio. This authentic screen ratio is a genuine selling point for retro gaming purists. Whilst PSP games will require some letterboxing, the authentic 4x3 experience for the vast majority of retro libraries makes this trade-off worthwhile for dedicated retro enthusiasts. At $66, this costs less than most people spend on a night out, but provides significantly more lasting entertainment and fewer regrettable decisions. The Dream One delivers exactly what most users need at a price that removes financial barriers to entry, positioning itself as one of the best retro handhelds under $100. What's remarkable about this device is how it manages to feel both familiar and fresh. The design language borrows heavily from established handheld aesthetics, but the execution, featuring Hall effect joysticks, the expected build quality based on Xu's track record, and thoughtful button placement elevates it beyond what we typically expect from budget hardware. This is a device that understands its audience, people who want authentic retro gaming without compromising their monthly budget or requiring an engineering degree to optimize performance. The pre-sales timing in late October positions the Dream One perfectly for holiday gifting, offering an accessible entry point into handheld retro gaming that prioritizes authenticity without sacrificing affordability. The Magme Air X is running Android 14 whilst costing under $90. And this is the one that reviewers have already had a chance to take a look at. It feels like finding a luxury hotel room for hostel prices. You keep checking for hidden fees, but they just do not exist. This device represents the most aggressive approach to the budget space. Maximum features, modern software, and specifications that directly challenge devices costing significantly more. Powered by the Qualcomm Snapdragon 662, a processor particularly renowned for its PSP emulation capabilities, the Air X handles the full spectrum of classic consoles with confidence. The 4GB of RAM and 64GB of internal storage provide a smooth foundation, but the real story is that operating system. Android 14 is about future-proofing, security updates, and ensuring compatibility with the evolving landscape of emulation software. That 5.5-inch display deserves special attention. 1920 by 1080, the resolution is the highest in its price class, offering exceptional sharpness and clarity for both retro games and modern Android content, whilst older games will display with black bars due to the 16:9 aspect ratio. But the pixel density should make up for that because it should make everything look really nice and crisp. This is particularly valuable for users who plan to use the device for media consumption, web browsing, or native Android gaming alongside retro emulation. The feature set reads like a premium device with Hall effect sticks and triggers for durability, a substantial 500 megaamp battery. The management would like to apologise for the mistake made in that last segment of video. Clearly, the presenter meant to say that it has a 5000 milliamp hour battery, but unfortunately, a problem with the scripting meant that things went wrong. We have found the person responsible, and we've shot them. We will endeavour not to get our worms wrong in the futile. At an early bird price of $79.99 and a retail of $89.99, what makes the Air X particularly compelling is its versatility. This isn't a retro gaming device, really. It's a legitimate Android tablet that just happens to have gaming controls built in. For users who want a single device that can handle retro gaming, modern mobile games, streaming, productivity tasks, and media consumption, the Air X offers an unprecedented value proposition. But the elephant in the room, the very expensive elephant wearing a monocle and wondering why everyone's getting so excited about these budget upstarts, is the Ambonic RG476H. And this represents the old guard's philosophy: steady, reliable, and a price that seems like it's been blessed by the handheld gaming gods themselves. Built around the significantly more powerful Unisoc T820 chipset, this device can handle the majority of PlayStation 2 and GameCube libraries with genuine competence, something that puts it in a different performance class entirely from our budget trio. And I said I'd tell you a story about this. Well, I very nearly bought one. I bought one because for this channel so that I could review it, so that I could put it up against other devices and see how good they were. But I didn't. And this is the same calculation that a lot of people in this space are going to be making when they see it. The thing that put me off was the price. The RG476H costs $149.99 in its early bird 72 hours, then jumps to $164.99. Now that is not unaffordable, and the technology is worth every penny. But on top of that, and the shipping, Ambonic adds in taxes straight onto my order, bringing the price to $200. Now, for that price, you're suddenly starting to eye up that Retroid Pocket 5 who's been winking at you from across the room all night. And when that device comes into the equation, the RG476H doesn't look quite like the belle of the ball anymore. So I didn't buy it, knowing that these new devices are just around the corner and will handle 90% of what the RG476H can. And that might seem silly, but these are the way that buying decisions are made all the time. I'm a retro guy. Even PS1 seems a little bit too newfangled and modern at times. So whilst the RG476H is objectively better, the value equation gets complicated when you're paying more than double for capabilities that many users may never actually need. The RG476H has already had a mixed reception in the community. Reviewers are praising its performance and display quality, but people are questioning whether the improvements justify the significant price jump over the cheaper models. Meanwhile, these sub-$100 devices are generating real excitement. And it's not because they're the most powerful options available, because, they really aren't, but it's because finally they're making bits of retro gaming accessible to people who couldn't get there before. The traditional handheld market has operated under the assumption that more power is always better, that pushing performance boundaries justifies premium pricing, and that serious gamers will always pay more for marginal improvements. These disruptors challenge every one of those assumptions. They ask, what if the goal isn't to run every single game perfectly, but to run the games that people actually want to play at a quality level that satisfies rather than impresses? What if accessibility matters more than benchmark scores? What if the best handheld gaming device isn't the one with the most powerful processor, but the one that removes the barriers to entry to enjoying those classic games? The response suggests that consumers have been waiting for exactly this approach for some time. These devices aren't targeting the enthusiast who demands flawless GameCube emulation at 4x resolution with enhanced shaders. They're targeting the much larger audience of people who just want to replay childhood favorites, discover games that they missed, or simply enjoy handheld gaming without requiring a significant financial commitment. So we're now left standing at the intersection of everything that handheld gaming has been and everything that it might become. All three of these devices are formidable in their class and will outpace everything in the H700 line, the TrimUI bricks, the Miu Mini Pluses. Which one you get is going to be a matter for you. Arguably, the most powerful will be the AYANEO Pocket Air Mini, but there are still some flies in the retro salve. You see, as of now, the only device that we can kind of be sure is going to launch is the AYANEO Pocket Air Mini. They've released a video, they've released the price points, they've given us a rough release date. It's everything that you would expect from a product release. And why not? AYANEO are not new to product launching, and they've got a good track record of making their launches work. I could be proven wrong, but I do believe them when they say that this unit is coming out and when it's going to be released. Hi, Editing Steve here for the second time, although this is the first time that you'll see me in this video. See if you can spot me again and you might win it. Okay, there's nothing to win. Anyway, it's all happening this week. So I finished editing and uploading this video last night, and then I woke up this morning to the news that there's now a release date for the Magme Air X, which is really exciting to see. So the early bird discount is October 15th to the 21st, and you get a free carrying case and a $5 off coupon if you sign up to their website, which is magmi.com. Now I've got to edit this bit into the video, re-upload it, and hope that Xu Retro don't release any information in the meantime. It's a tough life being a YouTuber. Hello, editing Steve here. You can see the edit that I'm working on behind me. And I just wanted to punch in for a second because as I was editing this, Magme X have actually come out with the information for the new Magme X 135. And the pre-sales for this begin October the 10th. And then the shipping for this will start on November the 10th. And it's priced at exactly $79.90. And this lands squarely in this disruptor territory. The chip is going to be exactly the same one that we've been talking about for the Xu 3-in-1. So you'll be able to play all of that stuff on here, but this is actually a dual D-pad device with only a single analog stick. It's got a 3.5-inch 960 by 644 by 3 display, and the whole idea is that you can turn it on its side to play Tate and DS games. For anything up to N64, this should be a really interesting device, not just a specialist console. Now, you can't do 3DS on here, but hold out until the new year when we might hear more about that. But right now, that's what we're expecting from Magme X next month. Either way, it's a very exciting time for retro handhelds, and these companies are going to release hardware at some point. It's up to the incumbents to keep up and keep innovating instead of stagnating. And as much as I love the Ambonic devices, and I do love Ambonic devices, and I appreciate their form factors, there's been very little innovation in terms of chips. Sure, they're moving on to the next chip with the 477M, but even that release was greeted with the same excitement as the previous ones. The old guard need to get their head back into the game if they're going to compete with these new upstarts. So what do you think? Have these sub-$100 devices convinced you that the budget gaming revolution is real, or are you still holding out for premium performance at premium prices? Which of these challenges speaks to your gaming needs? I'd love to hear about your own experiences with budget handheld gaming. Have you been waiting for prices to come down to this level? Are there classic games that you've been waiting to revisit but you just couldn't justify the hardware cost? What's your take on power versus accessibility? Let me know in the comments below, and if you found this helpful, please do consider subscribing and leaving a like. There has never been a more exciting time to be exploring portable gaming, regardless of your budget. And until next time, remember, the best handheld is the one that you actually pick up and use. Happy gaming.